First contact gone wrong. The Nexari Collective's first mistake wasn't discovering Earth. It was assuming they understood it. High Commander Zixtal stood aboard the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, her crystalline form catching the light of Earth's sun as she studied the holographic display before her. The blue-green planet rotated slowly in the projection, seemingly insignificant among the thousands of worlds the Collective had encountered in their expansion across the galaxy. Another primitive civilization, she noted, her voice resonating through the crystalline chamber. Fusion power just achieved, rudimentary space exploration, internal combustion still widely used. Standard classification, development stage 3. Her second in command, Rix 4, moved closer to the display. Interesting anomalies in their development pattern, High Commander. Their technological progression is erratic. They achieved powered flight to space travel in mere decades, yet some of their basic infrastructure remains centuries behind our expectations. Explain, Zixtal commanded, her crystalline fingers manipulating the hologram to zoom in on various Earth cities. They're innovative, but inefficient. They possess the technology for clean energy, yet many still burn fossil fuels. They can print organs, but haven't cured all diseases. They've reached their moon, but haven't properly colonized it. It's as if they're racing forward and standing still simultaneously. Zixtal's form shimmed with amusement. The Nexari had encountered thousands of species in their million-year history. All followed predictable patterns of development, neat linear progressions from one technological stage to the next. This chaotic approach to advancement was primitive, inefficient, in need of proper guidance. Standard protocol then, she decided. A show of force followed by integration into the Collective. These humans clearly need our direction to reach their full potential. The Nexari way was simple. Demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, demand submission, and then guide the new species into proper development patterns. It had worked flawlessly for 50,000 years across 3,000 worlds. They launched their first demonstration exactly as planned. 300 ships, each the size of a small city, materialized in perfect formation above Earth's major population centers. The display was meant to shock and awe, to demonstrate the futility of resistance. The humans launched nuclear weapons. Zixtal watched in disbelief as the primitive atomic devices exploded harmlessly against their shields. They dare attack, without even attempting communication. High Commander, Rix 4's voice carried an unusual note of concern. They are broadcasting, on every frequency. The message is unusual. The human broadcast played through the ship's crystals, a single voice speaking for their entire species. You have exactly one chance to leave our solar system. We don't know who you are. We don't know what you want. But if you're looking for surrender, we can tell you we don't have that. What we do have is a very particular set of skills we have acquired over a very long history of fighting among ourselves. Skills that make us a nightmare for species like you. The bridge fell silent. In 50,000 years of conquest, no Stage 3 civilization had ever responded with threats. It was irrational, illogical. They couldn't possibly believe they could win. They're quoting their entertainment media, one of the cultural analysts reported. Specifically, something called an action movie. It appears to be a form of ritualized combat storytelling. Zixtal's form pulsed with irritation. Launch the compliance drones. Standard pattern. Disable their primitive weapons, destroy any military installations that resist, and prepare for integration procedures. The drones deployed in perfect formation, crystal tech weapons ready to precisely disable Earth's military capabilities with minimal civilian casualties. The Nexari were not cruel. They were helping, after all. That's when they discovered humanity's first true advantage. They had no standard response pattern. In North America, military bases went dark, appearing to shut down completely, only to launch devastating counterattacks from underground bunkers the Nexari sensors couldn't detect. In Europe, civilian vehicles suddenly transformed into mobile weapons platforms. In Asia, Swarms of seemingly primitive drones overwhelmed Nexeri ships with suicide attacks. Impossible. Zixtal watched as another drone squadron was lost. They're adapting their weapons in real time. They're studying our attack patterns and developing countermeasures within hours. High Commander, Rix4's voice was urgent now. We're detecting unusual activity in their global information network. They're sharing our tactical data openly. Millions of their civilians are analyzing our technology, proposing countermeasures, coordinating responses. Their entire species appears to be collaborating on warfare strategies. The humans had turned their primitive internet into a vast military think tank. Civilian scientists shared shield frequency analysis alongside cat videos. Video game designers proposed battle tactics in between streaming sessions. Every human with a computer or phone had become part of their war effort. But worse than their adaptability was their sheer, incomprehensible determination. When the Nexeri destroyed a military base, humans built 2 more hidden ones. When they jammed communications in one region, humans created new communications methods. They used their entertainment encryption techniques to secure military channels. They repurposed civilian technology into weapons with terrifying creativity. They're not following any known combat doctrine, the tactical officer reported, her crystalline form flickering with distress. They're treating our superior technology as a challenge rather than a deterrent. Multiple human information channels are referring to this as finally, a worthy opponent. The first serious blow to Nexeri confidence came when a supposedly primitive nuclear submarine somehow slipped through their sensor net and launched a barrage of missiles directly into the Eternal Dominion's engine manifolds. The missiles themselves weren't particularly dangerous. What terrified the Nexeri was that humans had identified that weakness within days of their arrival. Hull breach in sectors 7 through 12, Rix4 reported. They've modified their nuclear weapons to emit precisely the frequency that interferes with our crystal tech. High Commander, they're learning too fast. Zixtal watched as more of her ships reported similar attacks. Humans had taken one observed weakness and transformed it into a systematic assault strategy in less than a week. How? How are they advancing so quickly? Sir, a cultural analyst interrupted. I believe I understand. Their entertainment media. Thousands of years of stories about alien invasions. They'd been mentally preparing for this exact scenario for generations. They've already imagined and solved these tactical problems countless times in their fiction. The High Commander's crystalline form darkened as she processed this information. They had dismissed human entertainment as primitive storytelling. Instead, it had been tactical simulation on a civilization-wide scale. The final realization of their mistake came when human communications suddenly shifted. Their tactical channels filled with laughter. Their information networks buzzed with excitement rather than fear. New broadcast, High Commander, playing now. A single human voice, thick with what the Nexeri would later learn was called amusement, filled the bridge. Thanks for the technology demonstration. We've learned so much. Would you like to see what we've done with it? That's when the first human counterattack began, and the Nexeri Collective learned why so many human stories were about defeating technologically superior invaders. They weren't stories at all. They were practice. The Awakening. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the crystalline fragment under her microscope, her eyes burning from 20 straight hours of research. Around her, the underground laboratory hummed with activity as scientists from former rival nations worked side by side. The invasion had changed everything. Old grudges and national rivalries had evaporated in the face of extinction. It's not just technology, she announced to the room. These crystals are semi-organic. They grow, adapt, respond to stimuli. The Nexeri aren't just using them, they're cultivating them. Dr. Viktor Petrov, formerly of the Russian Space Agency, leaned over her shoulder. That explains their ship architecture, not constructed, grown. And why their shields can adapt so quickly, Dr. Chen added. The crystals learn from each attack pattern. But that also means They can be taught the wrong lessons, completed Dr. Mohammed Hassan, grinning from his workstation. The Egyptian quantum physicist had been leading the shield frequency analysis team. We've been attacking their weaknesses. We should be creating new ones. This was humanity's true advantage. While the Nexeri expected linear technological development, humans excelled at lateral thinking. When blocked from advancing in one direction, they simply moved sideways and tried another approach. In orbit, the Nexeri watched with growing concern as their attacks became less and less effective. Human shields didn't just block their weapons, they reflected them back. Human weapons didn't just damage their ships, they infected their crystal tech with conflicting growth patterns. Their adaptation rate is unprecedented, HFY reported to the High Commander. They've begun engineering viral code that affects our crystal matrices. They're not just learning our technology, they're reinventing it. The turning point came 3 months into the invasion. Dr. Chen's team had made a breakthrough that seemed, to the Nexeri, impossible. They hadn't just understood crystal tech, they'd improved it. The Nexeri treat their crystals like technology, Dr. Chen explained to the Unified Earth Defense Council. We're treating them like a living ecosystem. And just like any ecosystem, they can be influenced, evolved, and revolutionized. The first human crystal ships emerged from hidden facilities across the globe. They weren't the elegant, symmetrical designs of the Nexeri. They were organic, asymmetrical, almost predatory in appearance. Where Nexeri crystal tech was grown in careful, controlled conditions, human crystal tech was stressed, challenged, forced to adapt or die. They're doing what? High Commander Zixtal's form pulsed with disbelief as she watched the tactical display. They're breeding the crystals, sir, her science officer replied, like their primitive animal husbandry. But they're doing it at an accelerated rate, selecting for traits we never considered useful. Their crystal matrices are crude, unstable, but significantly more powerful than ours. This was humanity's second advantage. They had no preconceptions about how things should be done. Where the Nexeri had spent millennia perfecting their crystal tech along established principles, humans simply threw out the rulebook and started fresh. Dr. Chen's team had discovered that crystal tech responded to emotion, to stress, to challenge. The Nexeri, with their logical, orderly approach, had never exposed their crystals to the chaotic emotional spectrum of human consciousness. Humans, on the other hand, poured everything they had into their creations. The result was crystal tech that didn't just function. It hungered. Human ships didn't just fly. They hunted. Their weapons didn't just fire. They adapted mid-battle, learning and evolving with every exchange. They're not even trying to copy our designs anymore, HFY observed with horror. They're creating their own applications, uses we never imagined. They've turned our own technology against us in ways we never thought possible. The Nexeri watched as humans began deploying crystal tech in increasingly creative ways. They created personal shield generators that drew power from the wearer's own biological energy. They developed communication systems that used crystal resonance to transmit thoughts and emotions across vast distances. They even found ways to merge crystal tech with their primitive digital technology, creating hybrid systems that were unpredictable yet devastatingly effective. But perhaps most terrifying was how quickly humans shared and improved upon each innovation. There was no central authority controlling the development of crystal tech. Every lab, every nation, every team worked independently yet shared their findings instantly across their global network. Each breakthrough sparked dozens of new innovations as different groups adapted and improved upon the original idea. They're not acting like a civilization at all, the cultural analyst reported, her crystalline form clouded with confusion. They're behaving like a viral evolution pattern, each group independently mutating and adapting, sharing successful mutations instantly across their entire species. Dr. Chen stood in her lab, holding up a new crystal formation that pulsed with a warm, reddish light. Unlike the cold blue perfection of Nexeri crystals, this one was shot through with veins of gold and crimson, its structure beautiful in its controlled chaos. Nexari Crystal Tech is about control, she explained to the cameras broadcasting to resistance cells worldwide. They grow their crystals like we grow gardens, carefully cultivated, meticulously maintained. But we've learned something they never considered. Crystals, like life itself, thrive on challenge, on change, on chaos. She placed the crystal in a testing chamber, where it immediately began growing, extending fractal patterns that seemed to dance with possibility. They thought they were showing us the future, she continued, her eyes reflecting the crystal's pulsing light. Instead, they showed us what happens when you stop pushing boundaries, when you think you've reached perfection, when you forget that the most powerful force in the universe isn't order, it's evolution. In orbit, High Commander Zixtal watched as another wave of human ships emerged from their hidden shipyards. Each vessel was unique, a testament to human individualism, even in mass production. The tactical display showed their energy signatures burning like stars, crystal matrices humming with power that made her own ship's systems seem dim in comparison. All this time, she murmured, we thought we were the teachers. Her tactical officer's response was quiet, almost reverent. No, High Commander, we were the catalyst. And now we're about to become the students. The human counterattack was about to enter its second phase, and the galaxy was about to learn why you should never give humans a technology they can improve upon. Unconventional warfare. Marine Corps Captain James Rodriguez had never expected to be teaching alien invasion tactics to a unified Earth defense force. But here he was, standing before a holographic display showing Nexari fleet formations to a room full of international military officers. The Nexari think in straight lines, he explained, manipulating the hologram. Perfect formations, optimal firing solutions, textbook military doctrine. And that's exactly why they're losing. The display shifted to show the chaotic patterns of human counterattacks. Small, nimble craft darting between Nexari formations, civilian ships suddenly revealing military capabilities, cargo containers transforming into weapons platforms. They're fighting a war, Rodriguez continued. We're fighting thousands of battles, each one different from the last. They're looking for patterns to counter. We're making sure there aren't any. This was humanity's third advantage, their long history of asymmetric warfare. While the Nexari had spent millennia fighting organized battles against comparable forces, humans had extensive experience fighting against superior technology and overwhelming odds. Colonel Wai Lin of the Chinese People's Liberation Army stood up. The fishing fleet strategy has been particularly effective. The Nexari still can't distinguish between actual fishing boats and our crystal hybrid attack craft. Because they're both, Rodriguez grinned. That's what the Nexari don't understand. Everything is a weapon if you're creative enough. Across Earth's oceans, thousands of fishing vessels continued their daily routines, but now each one carried crystal tech sensors, communications gear, and, when needed, weapons that could pierce Nexari shields. The invaders had learned to be wary of Earth's waters, never knowing which innocent-looking boat might suddenly unleash devastation. In orbit, Rick Svor presented his latest analysis to High Commander Zixtal. They're using their entire infrastructure as a weapons platform. Every building could be a sensor array. Every vehicle could be a missile launcher. Their entire civilization has become a combat system. Surely they can't maintain that level of military readiness. Zixtal's form pulsed with frustration. The economic cost alone. That's just it, sir. They haven't stopped their civilian economy. They've integrated military capabilities into it. Their entertainment networks double as battlefield coordination systems. Their social media platforms analyze our tactical data. Even their children's games are being used to simulate combat scenarios. The Nexari had never encountered a species that could so seamlessly blend civilian and military capabilities. Their own civilization maintained strict separation between military and civilian functions. Humans seemed to view everything as potentially both. This hybrid approach reached its peak with Operation Honeypot. Across the globe, Humans began building what appeared to be high-value military targets: command centers, weapons factories, power plants. The Nexeri, following their doctrine, deployed massive forces to destroy these facilities. Another successful strike. Zixtal noted with satisfaction as her ships reduced a supposed human command center to rubble. "Finally, we're making progress, sir." Her tactical officer's voice carried an unusual note of alarm. "We're detecting unusual crystal resonance patterns from the debris." The ruins of the facility weren't just debris. They were seeds. Humans had developed a new form of crystal tech that activated upon destruction. As the Nexeri ships turned to leave, the wreckage began to change. Crystals grew at impossible speeds, reaching out with fractal patterns that latched onto Nexeri hulls. "They're not buildings at all," Rixvor realized too late. "They're traps. The humans wanted us to destroy them." Each destroyed facility released adaptive crystal formations that learned from Nexeri defenses. The more targets they destroyed, the more their own technology was compromised. Humans had turned the very act of attacking them into a weapon. But the true masterpiece of human unconventional warfare came from an unexpected source: the global gaming community. Millions of gamers worldwide had been recruited to help develop battle tactics, using modified video games to simulate combat scenarios against Nexeri forces. "It's perfect training," Rodriguez explained to skeptical military leaders. "Gamers are already experts at finding exploits in complex systems. They don't think like soldiers. They think like players trying to beat the game." The results were devastating. Gamers discovered weaknesses in Nexeri formations that traditional military analysts had missed. They developed counter-tactics that seemed to break every rule of conventional warfare. And thanks to Earth's communications networks, successful strategies could be shared and implemented globally within hours. "They're using civilian entertainment software to predict our tactical responses," a Nexeri analyst reported, her form practically vibrating with disbelief. "And it's working. These gamers are anticipating our strategies with 87% accuracy." The Nexeri found themselves facing an enemy that turned everything into a weapon. Earth's atmosphere itself became a battlefield as humans used their understanding of weather patterns to disrupt Nexeri sensors. The planet's magnetic field was weaponized, with humans using it to guide swarms of microscopic crystal drones. Even orbital debris was transformed into a defensive network. "Do you understand now?" Rodriguez asked his international audience. The Nexeri invaded Earth expecting to find a primitive military force. Instead, they found a species that's been preparing for this moment through every war, every game, every story we've ever created. In orbit, High Commander Zixtal watched as another perfect formation of her ships was torn apart by seemingly chaotic human attacks. Their tactics made no sense by any traditional military doctrine. Their strategies seemed to change with every engagement. Just when the Nexeri thought they had adapted to human warfare, humans changed the rules again. "They're not fighting a war anymore," Rixvor observed. "They're rewriting the very nature of combat. And they're doing it with joy," Zixtal finished, her crystalline form darkening with the realization. "They're enjoying this. Every challenge we present, every technology we deploy, every tactic we use. They treat it all as a puzzle to be solved, a game to be won." And that was perhaps the most terrifying thing about humans. They had turned warfare itself into a form of play, and they were playing to win. The tables turn. The Nexeri didn't realize they had already lost until it was too late. The moment came during what they thought would be their decisive strike against Earth's new crystal tech production facilities. High Commander Zixtal had assembled the largest fleet in Nexeri history. 5,000 ships prepared to end the human resistance once and for all. All ships in formation, Rixvor reported, ready to begin final assault. That's when their sensors detected the anomaly. At first, they thought their instruments were malfunctioning. The readings couldn't be correct. The energy signatures were impossible. Earth's moon was moving. Not the natural movement of orbital mechanics, but a deliberate, powered trajectory. Humanity had done the unthinkable. They had turned their entire moon into a crystal tech megastructure. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the Lunar Control Center, surrounded by screens showing the culmination of humanity's greatest engineering project. The Nexari gave us the seeds, she said to the global audience watching through crystal-enhanced communications. We just decided to think bigger. The moon's surface rippled like liquid mercury, billions of engineered crystals working in perfect harmony. Humanity hadn't just mastered crystal tech, they had revolutionized it. While the Nexari grew their crystals in sterile laboratories, humans had seeded the moon's entire regolith, turning Earth's satellite into a single massive crystal organism. By the first growth, Zixtal whispered as her sensors registered the true scope of what humans had achieved. The power readings, they're beyond anything in our records. The moon wasn't just a weapon. It was humanity's statement to the galaxy. They had taken Nexari technology and expanded it beyond its creator's imagination. Where the Nexari saw limits, humans saw possibilities. Where the Nexari sought perfection, humans embraced evolution. You know what the funny thing is? Dr. Chen's voice carried across every Nexari communication channel. We couldn't have done this without you. Your invasion forced us to unite, to push beyond our limitations. You wanted to teach us about advanced technology. Congratulations. Class is over. The moon pulsed once, and every Nexari ship in orbit found their crystal tech systems responding to new commands. Humanity hadn't just learned to grow crystals, they had learned to speak their language. Every crystal, whether in human or Nexari ships, was part of the same fundamental network. And now humans control that network. This is Captain Rodriguez to all Earth forces. The Marine's voice was calm, professional. Operation Artemis is now active. Let's show our guests what humanity does with a technological advantage. The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. It was a demonstration. Human ships, powered by crystal tech that had evolved far beyond its original design, moved with impossible speed and precision. Their weapons didn't just penetrate Nexari shields, they turned those shields into weapons themselves. How? Rix 4 demanded as another squadron of Nexari ships went dark. How did they advance so far beyond us in less than a year? The answer came from an unexpected source, the Nexari's own cultural analysis team. They never stopped competing with themselves, the analyst explained. Even as they united against us, they maintained internal competition. Different teams, different approaches, different philosophies, all driving evolution at an unprecedented rate. That was humanity's fourth and perhaps most crucial advantage. They thrived on competition. Every human advancement sparked a dozen attempts to improve upon it. While the Nexari sought consensus and standardization, humans celebrated diversity and variation. From the Lunar Control Center, Dr. Chen watched as the Nexari fleet tried to adapt to the impossible situation. Your mistake, she broadcast to them, was thinking that technology should be controlled, regulated, standardized. We looked at your crystal tech and saw something alive, something that could grow, evolve, become more than its creators imagined. The moon pulsed again, and waves of crystalline energy washed over the Earth. Where they touched Nexari technology, it transformed, evolved, awakened to new possibilities. The invaders watched in awe as their own ships began to change, the crystals responding to frequencies they had never known existed. We could destroy you. Rodriguez's voice was matter-of-fact. Right now, we control every crystal matrix in the solar system. We could shut down your ships, turn your weapons against you, end this war in seconds. The Nexari braced for destruction, for humans to prove as merciless as they had been efficient. But humanity had one final lesson to teach. But that's not who we are, Dr. Chen continued. At least it's not all we are. You came here to teach us about advanced civilization. Let us teach you about humanity instead. The moon's surface shifted again, but this time the energy it released was different. Instead of weapon frequencies, it broadcast something the Nexari had never expected, an invitation. "Your crystal tech is beautiful," Chen explained. "Perfect. Controlled, stable. Ours is chaotic, dynamic, evolving. Imagine what we could achieve if we combined them. You try to conquer us. Instead, let's explore the galaxy together. There's so much more to discover." High Commander Zixtal stood on her bridge, her crystalline form reflecting the transformed energy patterns all around her. For the first time in her long life, she faced a choice that wasn't covered by any protocol or doctrine. The humans had defeated them utterly, but instead of destruction, they offered partnership. They're not just advancing technology, she realized. They're advancing evolution itself, and they want to share that journey. The Nexari Collective had ruled through technological superiority for millennia. Now they had to face a new reality. A species that had taken their most advanced technology and transformed it into something beyond their comprehension. A species that could have destroyed them, but chose not to. A species that had one final surprise to deliver. A lesson in humanity. 10 years after the failed invasion of Earth, High Commander Zixtal stood in the grand chamber of the Nexari Human Cooperative Research Center on Luna. Her crystalline form had evolved considerably since first contact, now incorporating streaks of warm colors that would have been considered chaotic by traditional Nexari standards. She rather liked them. To think, she mused to Dr. Chen, who had become something of a friend over the years, we came here believing we would uplift a primitive species. The human scientist smiled, her own form subtly enhanced by crystal tech innovations that allowed humans to interface more directly with the technology they had revolutionized. Instead, you gave us the key to unlocking our full potential, though I doubt this is what you had in mind. Around them, human and Nexari scientists worked side by side in laboratories that would have been impossible a decade ago. The entire moon had become a living laboratory, its crystal matrix continuously evolving, generating new possibilities faster than either species could fully explore them. "Do you know what truly changed our perspective?" Zixtal asked, watching a team of young Nexari researchers eagerly absorbing human teaching methods. "It wasn't just your technological adaptability, it was what you did with victory." The moment of triumph had become legendary across the galaxy. Humanity, having gained complete control over all crystal tech in the solar system, had chosen cooperation over domination. But it wasn't simple mercy, it was something far more profound. "We recognized ourselves in you," Captain Rodriguez, now General Rodriguez, explained as he joined them. "Your drive for perfection, your dedication to advancement. We just approached it differently." The human military leader had aged well, crystal tech medical advances having eliminated many of the effects of time. He now served as the military liaison for joint human Nexari defense projects, teaching both species how to incorporate chaos theory into strategic planning. "You sought perfection through control," Chen added. "We sought it through evolution." Turns out both approaches had their merits and their limitations. The combined approach had yielded results that neither species could have achieved alone. Human creativity and adaptability, merged with Nexari precision and experience, had opened up entirely new fields of science. The crystal tech that now powered their civilization was neither purely human nor purely Nexari. It was something entirely new. Though I must admit, Zixtal's form sparkled with what humans had taught her was amusement. "Some of your methods still confound us. Just yesterday, I discovered your research team was running combat simulations through something called Minecraft." Rodriguez laughed. "Hey, it works. The voxel-based environment is perfect for modeling crystal growth patterns. Besides, making science fun is a very human trait." That was perhaps the greatest lesson the Nexari had learned from humanity, the value of joy in advancement, where the Nexari had treated technology as a serious, structured pursuit. Humans approached it with enthusiasm, creativity, and even playfulness. The results spoke for themselves. The lunar surface below them rippled with prismatic patterns as new crystal formations tested themselves against the vacuum of space. Earth glowed blue and green above them, now surrounded by a network of crystal satellites that served both species. Ships of hybrid design, incorporating the best of both civilizations' approaches, departed regularly for the stars. We've received another dozen applications from Nexari youth wanting to attend Earth universities, Chen mentioned, checking her crystal-enhanced neural interface. Apparently, our chaotic teaching methods are becoming quite popular. And twice as many human applications for positions in Nexari engineering collectives, Rodriguez added. Turns out structure and discipline have their place too. Zixtal nodded, remembering the initial shock when humans had first suggested allowing young Nexari to study on Earth. The idea of exposing impressionable minds to human unpredictability had seemed dangerous. Now, those first exchange students had become leaders in the new combined technological revolution. We thought we were so advanced, she mused. 10,000 cycles of technological development, and we never once considered that advancement could be fun. That chaos could be as valuable as order. That imperfection could drive perfection. And we never would have unified our world or advanced so quickly without the challenge you presented, Chen acknowledged. Sometimes the best teachers are those who force us to prove them wrong. An alert chimed softly through the crystal matrices around them. On the testing grounds below, a new experiment was about to begin, one that would have been impossible for either species to attempt alone. Humans had dreamed it, Nexari had structured it, and together they had made it possible. Shall we? Rodriguez gestured toward the observation deck. I believe we're about to make the impossible possible again. As they moved to watch the test, Zixtal reflected on the true lesson of Earth's resistance. The Nexari had come to teach, but in their pride, they had forgotten the most important principle of advancement. There is always more to learn. Humanity hadn't just survived first contact. They had transformed it into an opportunity for both species to grow. They had taken an invasion and turned it into a partnership, a war into a collaboration, an end into a beginning. You know, Chen said softly, watching the experimental crystals below form impossible patterns in space. Some of our old sci-fi stories got it wrong. They always assumed first contact would end in either conquest or cooperation. They never considered it might end in evolution. The crystals below them pulsed with new possibilities, neither human nor Nexari, but something more. Something that proved that sometimes the best way to win a war was to transform it into something else entirely. And in that transformation lay the greatest truth about humanity. Their ultimate weapon wasn't their adaptability, their creativity, or even their determination. It was their ability to turn enemies into friends, challenges into opportunities, and endings into beginnings. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly how humanity liked it.